Welcome, my friends. Hello, hello. Here we are. It is the 3rd of March here in New Zealand. It's 2021. This is Chat with Matt. Half an hour or a little bit more to talk about whatever's going on for you. Sharing some wisdom, facilitating some energetic space where we can all transform, we can all grow, we can all get over ourselves, let go of what's limiting us, move forward in a more empowered way, maintain a more empowered mentality to the world, attitude, perspective, whatever we want to call that stuff. It's just a weekly reminder to help you stay on track with what's best going to serve you. Hey, Sophia, how are you? So I'm delivering this from the far north of New Zealand. We're in Doubtless Bay, Cable Bay to be more accurate, but which is part of Doubtless Bay, here in a little Airbnb bedsit. Yeah, happy to answer any questions, speak to any requests. I do have my trusty laptop here with me. If I miss them scrolling up this screen, I will attempt to get them down here. I do have a pre-requested question. It's a question, I guess. Question request. It's from Michelle. I'll read it out before I start answering it. That's my intention anyway. So, hi Matt. I know that I have no control over others' choices. That's a great place to start because it's very foundational. Hey, Sister Carolyn. And the path that they are on. I can't even understand why they are on it. To be honest, Michelle, I can't understand why I'm on my path either. And I don't even understand some of the choices that I make. That's the truth of it. Anyway, I'd like to find out how I can help manifest better outcomes of certain situations and issues they are in. Is this even possible for me to do on behalf of another? Because I'm very frustrated with trying to find a way to spiritually and vibrationally bring things to my daughter's lives that could change their life situation. I pray, but it doesn't seem to change things. Thank you. So this is a great question, and it's a very, very common question. Or it's maybe not a common question, but it's a very common life situation where we all desire, or many of us desire, I shouldn't say we all desire because that's not true, but many of us desire to help our children have better lives. We all desire, no, I'll change that again. Most of us desire to see people that we love have pleasant outcomes, what we'd call good outcomes, what we'd call a good life. We're judging what a good life is based on our egoic perspective from basically how we've been trained with aversions and aversions. No, whatever, desires and aversions, right? We want people to have what they desire, and we want people to avoid what they don't want. And we perceive what that should be based on the training that society has indoctrinated us into, right? We've from our history and from our education and from all those things, we have a perspective of what's a good life and what's not a good life, and what's a good outcome and what's not a good outcome. And we want people to have the good things, and the people we love, and we don't want them to have the bad things. We don't want them to experience pain. We don't want them to experience pain. As parents, we try and help our children avoid pain and have good outcomes, satisfying outcomes, empowering outcomes, joyful outcomes. Good morning, Erina. Good morning, Jane. How are you guys going? So this is common. This is a question from Michelle about helping our children. How can we manifest better outcomes for the situations that our children are in? And she basically asked, is it even possible? And yes, I think it is possible to hold space for certain outcomes to occur. But is that the best thing to do? That's the point, right? Is it the best thing for us to do to employ our energy to manifest a situation that we perceive is best for our children when we don't really know? Because that's the truth. We don't really know what our children's soul has come here to, quote unquote, learn or to experience, is a better way of putting it, right? I don't like to think that we just come here to learn things. It sounds a little bit like school, and school sucks, basically, doesn't it? So But we're here to experience certain things, and through those experiences, we will evolve, which you could say is learning. But I don't like to see it as a lesson, and then you've learnt the answer to the lesson, and now you've learnt that, and right now you can get the tick and move on. It's not really like that. We're here to expand our wisdom through having experiences, and so our soul and our higher self has desires in that regard. And is it really beneficial for us to try and circumvent what our soul or what our children's soul is intending to experience, right? What it perceives as a valuable experience here on this planet. So many of us find ourselves pushing against what we might call the universe, pushing against our soul's desires, trying to avoid a situation that is ultimately going to benefit us, but we don't want to have it because we perceive it from our egoic perspective as being too painful, right? Or not in alignment with success and judgeable, right? It might not necessarily directly painful, but judgeable, which of course is painful to us because none of us want to be judged, because we perceive being judged as a safety issue, right? Because if you get judged by the others in your community, then maybe they will reject you. And if you get rejected by your community, not only will you miss out on having the satisfaction of being supported, the joy of being in community, but you might also find yourself on the wrong side of survival, right? Because it wasn't that long ago that we didn't survive if we weren't looked after by the tribe or the village or the community that we were in. We needed each other to get through the winter, to get through the hard times, to collect and process our food and do all those other things, right? We are by nature humans a collective mammal, right? A herd mammal. We survive best in groups. We're not solitary beings generally on this planet. Very few of us do very well on our own. So being judged potentially leads to being rejected, which potentially leads to being abandoned, which is a survival issue and definitely also a thrival issue, right? Because it's very hard to be joyful or experience the joy of being a human with no one to share it with. So we're scared of being judged. And thus, from that perspective, we try and manipulate our outcomes and our behaviors in order to avoid judgment, which quite often doesn't actually serve us in the bigger way, right? Because ultimately, if we can allow ourselves, in my perspective anyway, if we can allow ourselves to simply move through life being ourselves, then we will be naturally more accepted. A lot of us put a lot of effort into people pleasing, right? Manipulating our behavior in order to, from our perspective, win the appreciation of others, which ultimately dilutes who we be. And from what I've learned and what I've experienced, we actually are more accepted when we just be ourselves. Yes, we might upset people from time to time, but ultimately we will attract a tribe of people who enjoy the being that we be. I've got a little bit off topic just for a change. Coming back to, what's the best way to work with achieving results for our children, right? What's the best way of helping them without trying to micromanage and control their life, without trying to manifest the outcomes that we think they should have, or even the outcomes that they want, right? Because a lot of the time we want to give our children what they want, right? That's perceived to be the way to have an easy life, right? If you give your children what they want, then they don't throw a tantrum. And even as they grow older, we do the same with our spouse, of course, and our parents. If we please them, then life seems to be more smooth. Things seem to tick along. We don't have conflict and we don't have people expressing pain. And as empaths, when our children are hurting, then we feel it, right? Definitely. The same with our parents, same with our significant others and other people in our lives. When they're in pain, we tend to pick it up as an empath. And so we put a lot of effort into orchestrating situations and environments so that people around us, people who are close to us, enjoy themselves, because that inherently feels better to us, right? And it's a way of us avoiding our own pain it's kind of like staying a step ahead of the curve instead of having to pick them up when they fall over? Why don't we orchestrate the conditions where they don't fall over, right? Why don't we help them manifest their best outcomes, manifest the money, manifest the health, manifest the finances, manifest the partners and the, you know, success business-wise or socially or whatever we're trying to do. But ultimately, all of that trying to micromanage and control, all of that thinking that we know what is for our children or anyone else's best interest is delusional, right? Because we don't really know what their soul desires. We think we have an understanding of what their personality desires, but even that can be quite, we can be led astray in that regard too. We think we know what they want, but quite often we don't really know what they want. So, Ultimately, it comes down to this thing, for me personally, of just holding space rather than trying to fix everything, rather than trying to manifest an outcome. We just hold space for the highest and best good, and then we relax into acceptance. Because the thing is, when we're worried about our children, we don't actually help them have the best outcome. When we're contracted around trying to fix their problems, we don't actually help them have the best outcome. When we are relaxed in confidence that whatever experience they're having is serving them, then it is much more likely that the experience they have will serve them, right? When we add our weight behind accepting a situation, when we hold a space of acceptance, then it's easy for our children to accept whatever they're going through. That will help them relax into the process of expanding through the opportunity, expanding through the experience, which will help them to ultimately align with their best outcome. So that involves having the fortitude and the, what's the right word here? Maturity to witness our children or other people that we love having a hard time without contracting into sympathy. It's not that we're cold, it's not that we're disconnected from them, it's that we maintain a more expansive perspective of the experience that they're going through. We get less aligned with the pain that they're experiencing and more aligned with the opportunity that's in front of them. And that just requires consistency, really. It requires an intention to maintain that perspective, and then the dedication or the devotion to maintain that perspective consistently as time progresses. Because, you know, you will keep getting drawn into it. You'll keep getting drawn into it. You'll keep sympathizing with them. You'll keep trying to take away their pain. It's very, very normal to do that, especially with our children, trying to fix the issues that they're going through rather than to allow them to gain the maximum benefit from the experience that they're going through. So it's difficult. It's a difficult one. And of course, it's a one where there's quite a few fine lines of balance points. We can obviously help them. You know, it's not, you know, depending on their age, depending on the circumstances they're in, there is always opportunity for us to give valid advice, helpful advice, empowered advice. And there's always opportunity for us to actually do things, to take actions that will help them. It's a matter of listening to our heart and discerning as to what. I look sad today. Yeah, well, that could be possible. Might be the lighting more than anything. I'm backlit, which doesn't help. Front lighting always looks much more radiant, but I don't really have that potential here because looking the other way is not appropriate right now. That's why I always like to sit in front of the window, but I decided to sit looking out with you guys, looking out at the view, and not looking at what else is going on in the room. So yeah, finding that fine line between maintaining, and of course the subject is close to home, right? I've got two, you know, adolescent boys who are going through various levels of problems and pain points right now, as in right now, as in like having a phone call just minutes ago. So, you know, I'm walking the talk. This is the stuff that, you know, we as parents, Marie and I, are still dealing with, right? Trying to orchestrate or trying to help our children have the best outcomes with the lessons that come hard and fast as you progress out of school life and into, you know, the next level of education or working life, and all of the things that come along with that, and having to do things on your own as you become a young adult, having to, you know, work with the powers that be, work with the authorities, work with the doctors, work with the education department, and advocate for yourself. They're hard lessons, and they're hard lessons to watch as a parent for your child to go through, and discerning where that line is as to how much you help them and how much you give them the opportunity to learn for themselves is a difficult decision to make, for anyone, and myself included, right? It's easy to talk about, just align with your heart and go with what you feel, but, you know, the doubts are going to be there, the mentality is going to be there, and it's going to play on you, and it's not easy. It's not easy being a human. It's not. So if you're having a hard time being a human, then relax and trust that you're not alone. That you're not failing, that you're not falling behind, that there's nothing wrong with you. This, particularly at this time on this planet, it is very hard to be an awakened human choosing to forge a new path into a new paradigm on this planet, letting go of those old fear-based follow the rules indoctrinations, and forging a new pathway ahead into a more expansive energy of who you be. So we're all going through it, my friends. Don't look to anyone thinking that they have all their SH1T together, because more than likely, if you think they've got their stuff together, they're probably just putting on an act. The real leaders of today are much, much, much more transparent and authentic, and they're not actually leading from the front. They're leading from within the pack. They're just shining their light out as an inspiration, as a support, without having to project this idea that they've already achieved everything, they know what's going on, and they're an expert at this because they've done it so many times. No one's done anything so many times in this world. If someone's an expert at something, then they're teaching something that's very old, right? Because things are changing so quickly, no one has the opportunity to become an expert at anything today other than something that's yesterday's energy. So experts are a thing of the past. Today we just look for alignment. That's how we choose who we get help from, people who are aligned with us, and we don't look for cast iron guarantees that they know what they're doing and they're gonna get the result for us because they've done it so many times and they've got all these testimonials and they've got all of this knowledge behind them. Knowledge is no longer that relevant. What's relevant today is an open heart and an ability to dive into experimenting, dive into the new, dive into being more present with those around them, and being willing to explore opportunities, and willing to hold space for outcomes to arise, even though we don't know how it's going to arise. Right? I can't give you recipes. I can't give you, cookie cutter solutions to problems, because they don't exist. Each and every one of us is an individual, and while we're going through similar experiences, we're all going to move through those experiences differently. There's no one way to solve any problem. Each problem needs to be, each problem needs to be looked as an opportunity and then moved through from a space of expansive, heart-based connection with holding, advocating for the best outcome, even though we don't even know what the best outcome looks like, right? We're advocating for the best outcome without understanding what that is yet, because if we were to understand what the best outcome was, it wouldn't be that good, because we're going far beyond anything that we've experienced before, anything that we can imagine. We're going beyond that. So it's beneficial to give ourselves some space and to let go of trying to, I'm just checking the time here, to let go of trying to think that we should understand this world, and we should understand, how to fix things for our children, or whether we should or we shouldn't, right? These are fine lines. How much we act for our children, how much we I want to say interfere with our children's lives, right? Because that's basically what we do as parents. How much we choose to do that is individual and dynamic, right? At some points in our children's lives, it's going to serve us to step in more, and at other times it's going to serve us and them to step out further. And there's no rules around that. There's no hard and fast. A lot of people say, well, where should I set the boundary here? What should the boundary be? And it's kind of like, well, what do you feel? And that's going to keep changing from time to time. You can't just say, well, this person's like this. I've categorized them as a something narcissist. Therefore, I need to have a boundary that looks like this. Really, if you're doing life like that, if you think that that's as simple as life is, that you just work something out with your mind and then set a cookie cutter solution to the problem, you're kind of missing the point of how beautiful this world is, how intricate this world is, what a rich tapestry this experience is here on this planet, right? So be willing to dance with things without having to understand it, without having to create rules around what we do, right? There's no one way to manifest better outcomes for our children. Ultimately, if we're holding an empowered attitude and intention for our children, then we are going to be helping. At the same time, as we can stay relaxed and thanks, Sophia, enjoy your client. If we can relax into being more expansive with how we dance with that opportunity, then that is also going to lead to a more expansive outcome, right? So holding intention and then staying relaxed is the balance, right? Holding an image of and an intention for our children's or anyone that we love's best outcome, even though we might not understand exactly how that looks, and then maintaining allowance for how they get there, right, which might involve more pain than we would like to witness them going through, is what it's all about. That's what spirituality is about, right? It's aligning with the spirit of things rather than getting caught up in the mentality or the emotionality or the physicality of things, right? To align with the spirit of things rather than get caught in the mentality, emotionality, or physicality of things, right? Of course, emotionality, mentality, and physicality is part of our experience here and is not to be disregarded, but at the same time, it's not to be placed too high on the pecking order of how we're making our choices and of what we are, trying to avoid. More water for me. I don't know if many more comments have come in that I may have missed. We only have a reasonably smaller group this week. Which might have been because I missed last week. We're out on a boat doing a yoga retreat, a 5-day yoga retreat, so I missed last Wednesday, so apologies for that. It will happen from time to time when Chat with Matt falls by the wayside. It's only midway up my priorities. It's only midway up the priorities list. Just changing that. Is there anything else, my friends who are watching live? Did I answer all of Michelle's question? I think a lot of the issue comes because I just read the end of Michelle's question, which said, I pray and stuff. I'm getting frustrated because it doesn't seem to change things. We have to, in my opinion, it really serves us to let go of trying to work out whether we're making a difference based on measuring external things. That goes for ourselves on our own part. It's very easy to fall into, wanting to measure our progress based on metrics that fall so far short of really taking into account of how things evolve for us as a complex spiritual being having a life here as a human. We want to dumb things down and simplify things, that if I do this and this, I should have this outcome, and I should experience this outcome in physicality, in reality. And really, it's very deluded to think that it is that simple. To have the outcomes, the ultimate outcomes of happiness and empowered freedom and the prosperity that we desire as a being, not just the financial prosperity as a person, but the abundance of being here as an expression of our divine self. That's what we truly desire as a soul, and that experience. To get there requires us to go through a process that quite often looks like we're going backwards. We have to be prepared to go through the releasing process of what's limiting our ability to have that. And to think that it's just a matter of doing A and B and then you get C or D, and then when we don't, then when it doesn't work, so that's quite deluded to think that. But then judging ourselves harshly when we don't have the outcomes that we're kind of sold. Right, I did A and I did B, but somehow I didn't get the outcome C. Therefore, I must have done something wrong. I mustn't be good enough. Something, it doesn't work for me. Life's not fair. Kind of mentality, or beating ourselves up. It just doesn't help. The more that we can relax out of trying to measure things and prove that we're doing it right, and make sure that we're getting it right, and we are, to make sure that we are evolving is counterproductive, right? We can't make sure of anything. A lot of people say to me, but how can I be sure that it's going to work? And I say, well, you can't. If you want to be sure that it's going to work, then you're not going to do anything. We have to trust. We have to have faith. We have to, it serves us to maintain a mentality that it is working even if we can't see it, that it is working even if we're not sure. Because if you want to be sure, what is sure anyway? Like, really, if you think you can, with this mentality, with this brain, with that mental space, if we can, really understand everything and be sure that it's all working and that we're making progress, you're dumbing the world down into such a small box that the mind can understand. We live in a magnificent, expansive, energetic space. And if you want to be sure, then you have to really cut away a lot of that magnificence in order to make it understandable. And that's basically what humanity's been doing for quite some time. We've been trained into doing that. And right now, a lot of what is happening with things falling away is this opportunity to let go of this very small, understandable box and allow ourselves to expand back out into the magnificence that's available to us in this creation. And that involves us getting out of the idea that we've got to be sure, that we should understand, that all of that idea we need to let go and just allow ourselves to follow our heart into the experience of these more expansive expressions. It's not easy, but that's the path we're walking. And so we have to be willing to let that happen for our children as well, and for other people that we love, rather than trying to micromanage their lives or fix their problems in order for them to avoid pain. Pain, unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way we want to look at it, is a very normal part of the process of being embodied. So no worries, Erina, enjoy. So allow yourself to go through pain, and allow those who you love to go through pain, and still hold space to support them as they do so, right? So that their pain doesn't become suffering, so they don't contract around the wrongness of pain. That's our own journey, and that's the journey that we can really hold for our children and those we love as well, to hold a space where they don't suffer through their pain so much, and they can relax into more acceptance, and they can trust that no matter, even though the situation that they're experiencing might not look like the outcome that they want or think that they should have, that if they can relax into acceptance that the outcome is leading them to their best expression of self, then that will occur, with time. So keep up the prayers, but don't get too specific around trying to avoid pain, right? Just maintain space for people that we love to have the best outcome, and don't worry too much about trying to avoid the pain or trying to have what looks like success, but just to be open to the richness of this experience here on the planet. I think I've pretty much done it, my friends, in terms of time. 9:31 here. So thank you all so much. Hey, thank you, Michelle. I'm glad I didn't see that you were on or not. So glad that you were here live to listen to that. Awesome, Jane. I'm glad that was helpful advice for you too. And who else was? Mira, Miha. Is it Miha? Sorry, sister. I'm not very good at pronouncing names that I haven't seen regularly, but or haven't been told how to pronounce. I struggle with that. Anyway, much love to you all, my friends. I will be back at home this time next week, and so we will be doing our live stream chat with Matt from there. In the meantime, enjoy whatever you are going through. If you have any specific questions or comments or concerns, you can always reach out to me. You can write a comment below this video and I will do my best, or you can send me an email, mantara@mantara.nz. Reach out if you want, more specific help. We can organize a session. We can do whatever is best going to serve you. Because that's my greatest joy. Much love to you all, my friends. Bye for now. Namaste. Goodbye.